Hello and welcome to the Movie Therapy channel. We are Jim and Sam, and this is a show where we like to give you our rating first and then talk about the things we did or did not like about the movie we saw. Today we have two movies we are doing. First episode is John Wick Chapter 3, and then we are doing BOOKSMART, caught an early screening of that, and that will be next. That'll be a separate episode. So before we go ahead and get into John Wick Chapter 3, I just want to give a rating for John Wick Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, just so people get an idea of what we think of the franchise. So First off, John Wick Chapter 1, for me, it's a see it.
See it.
I think it's an action classic. It's a tremendous action film. John Wick Chapter 2, for me, it borderlines on, wait for it, pass it. What about you?
I think it was more of a passive for me.
So, again, action in the film is terrific, but the story just isn't what the first one is. It's harder to root for John Wick and to care about the actual things that are happening in that film. It goes a little deeper into the lore, but for me, and for a lot of people that I know, it's just not as interesting as Chapter 1. And having seen Chapter 3, I actually think Chapter 2, I hate to say it, it's almost even a little bit less important. So we'll get into it a little bit later, but now John Wick Chapter 3. So our rating system is either a see it, wait for it, or pass it. So Sam, John Wick Chapter 3. 3, 2, 1. See it. Awesome action film.
It was great.
Probably it's the best action of the series.
Oh, for sure.
I won't say that I like it more than one, but it is hands down probably some of the best action I've seen in a film in a really, really long time. John Wick Chapter 3. What this film does to stand out from the others is that, one, the action went up a whole nother level. They went bigger without going too bigger. Mm-hmm. So usually with sequels, you get films that want to go bigger, badder, we got to do crazier things. That's not the case. They just did different things that I liked. There's a lot more hand-to-hand combat in this John Wick film. We haven't really gotten that. We've gotten hand-to-hand combat with like guns and stuff, but not with like knives and fist-to-fist. Seeing John Wick get to use a belt in action sequence was awesome. Probably one of that particular action sequence at the end, the 2v1's probably one of the coolest fist fights I've seen in the film.
It reminded me of a video game. He had to get through all of these levels, beat the boss fight, get through the levels, and then the ultimate boss fight. Yeah. Because like there's like stages and people he has to beat and get through that are like the bigger person or like the head person of whatever he's trying to get to. But it was really cool.
It is really cool. It reminded me of the movies The Raid. So if you've seen The Raid, the two guys that are actually in this action sequence fighting against John Wick are actually from the Raid movies. I didn't realize it when I was watching it. I'm like, oh man, this is exactly like the final fight in the Raid film. Not realizing that the guys actually in this fight were the guys in the final fight of the Raid film. They actually took those guys, actors, put them into this film. And so not only were they referencing other films that have also been considered action classics of the last decade, they took the actors from those films and put them into this as homages to the things that have inspired them to make the action sequences in this film, which was a nice little touch. And it was like a little like aha moment for me when I actually like looked up who those guys were. But anyways, I love the acting. The story's a lot better than it was in the second one. Halle Berry's fantastic.
Oh my goodness, she was so good. She was such a badass. Her dogs were my favorite.
Yep,
her dogs were great.
That dog sequence was awesome. I wanted more of her. I feel like it didn't have enough. Mm-hmm. She brought something that I felt like Chapter 2 was missing. And one of the things I think Chapter 2 was missing that I really, really liked that they emotionally they kind of brought back was that Chapter 2 I felt like was missing a little bit of humanity, which is what made Chapter 1 so awesome, was that you could root for John Wick, even though he himself was a bad guy going after other bad guys. You wanted to root for John Wick because of what they did. And in this one, they bring a little bit of that back. Like, you kind of root for John Wick again. It was hard for me to really root for John Wick, just not because I didn't like him, just because the plight wasn't that interesting. But in this one, he's trying to fight for survival, and when we meet some of the characters he comes across, we actually sort of resonate with these characters now.
I really like that he had to cash in all of his, his favors.
Yeah, I don't get too much into it in case people are watching this that haven't seen it.
All I'm saying, that's all I was going to say about it. Mm-hmm. But I'm just saying, I thought that was really cool. It was a clever component to it. Yeah. And that's what made it interesting to see him jump through all of these hoops to get to his outcome. Yeah. The outcome he needed to be at.
The other thing you mentioned, dogs in this film get their comeuppance. If you hate what happened in the first one, I know a lot of people have a hard time going back and revisiting that first John Wick movie because of what happens to the puppy.
Oh, poor Daisy.
It's been a driving force, essentially, for John Wick in this franchise. Dogs totally get their revenge in this one. It is fantastic. That particular action sequence you're talking about, you've seen it in the trailers. The trailers don't even show half. They don't even show close to what the dogs do in this film, and it's awesome.
Oh, for sure.
So what's your favorite scene in this film?
Okay, I have two.
Okay.
I have two, and they're a tie. The first one is the dog sequence with Halle Berry's character and going through, is it a hotel?
It's something. They're in a foreign country. It's like the New York and Continental in another country.
That part's really cool, and then I really like the knife scene.
Oh, the knife scene's awesome.
The first 10 minutes, 15 minutes of the movie is awesome.
Yeah, it's bonkers. It's balls to the wall.
It is. Every single second, everyone is like, because something like drastically gross has happened to some person because of the way he's fighting them, but it's so good.
Yeah, we saw this Thursday opening night, and the crowd was into it. Yeah.
Oh, the crowd loved it. I mean, people were clapping throughout the whole movie. People were like screaming and like excitement. It was really good.
My favorite scene's the 2v1 at the end with John going fist to fist with the two Asian guys, and he had the belt. Mm-hmm. That's hands down my favorite scene. Probably one of my favorite, like I said earlier, one of my favorite martial arts action sequences in the film. Mm-hmm. So those are all the things that I liked about this film. Now, to go into the things that I didn't like, the only thing that really bothered me about this film is that the first John Wick movie is very plausible and feels kind of real.
Yeah.
If not sort of tongue-in-cheek real. But with John Wick Chapter...
So?
Well, it's like they know they're making an action film about... It's essentially like an 80s action film. But yeah, everything that happens in this film feels like it could be plausible.
Oh, okay.
So everything about like the hotel, the assassins. The only thing that gets kind of... I don't want to say it's ridiculous, but the only thing that seems a little far-fetched is when John Wick's like going through the hotel and he's like murdering, or not the hotel, but through the red circle in the first film, and he murders like 40 people. Realistically, no one would be able to do that. But it's believable when John Wick does it because we believe how much of a super assassin he is.
Yeah.
In this film, they take sort of the invincibility factor of John Wick and like amplify it. So now it's kind of ventured into comic book territory. And it's been a slow, like each, like chapter 2 kind of went a little further with it. And now chapter 3 is just like essentially in comic book land. It's the only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Essentially, like, I'll just say, you're not going to know what I'm talking about, but the fall. There's no way anyone would ever walk away from that. I mean, you're dead in that instance. It's a comic book now.
I don't know. I feel like it's a movie too.
Yeah, but it took that plausibility factor, and it's like out the window now. The other thing is that another aspect of like the secret society comic book type of thing that I feel like it's going is the random meeting not the random meeting, but it's the meeting in the desert was a little strange to me. Didn't hate it, but it's another thing where it's like, oh, we're getting into like sort of, again, comic book type territory with these types of things, where before it's grounded in cities, rural areas, hotels. Now we're going to far off exotic locations, middle of nowhere. It's the only thing that kind of rubbed me the wrong way a little bit. Didn't hate that stuff, but it's just now we're venturing into sort of a different genre than what I felt like the first one was. Still balls to the wall action movie, and I want more of these films, and I think that's just the bottom line. I will continue to watch John Wick movies if they continue to be of this caliber.
Oh, I'm sure.
Was there anything about this film that you didn't like?
Not really. I mean, I think the only thing that I would have wished to see more was Halle Berry's character, but I think maybe she's going to come full circle and come up with another one.
Yeah.
Maybe she'll come back.
I want more of...
I don't think there was anything that I had that I'm thinking that I was like, oh, I just didn't like it.
There was a few times where I looked over at you and you look like you're zoned out. And I wonder if the action sequences were running a little long for your taste.
No.
Because the action sequences do run long sometimes. Specifically the beginning and the end. Essentially the bookmark, not the bookmark. the bookends, essentially the bookend action sequences of the film, the one that opens the film and the one that closes the film, are essentially like 30-minute long action sequences. I mean, they're really long.
And I was like, I think if I had seen this movie a few years ago, I don't think I would have liked it as much. But I think now, because I play so many video games where all we do is fight sequences,
yeah,
like I think it was like fine with me. I don't think I would have liked this movie a few years ago.
Yeah, I think the excessively long fight sequences, while it didn't bother me, might rub people the wrong way. I didn't mind it, but I know some people will be turned off by how long some of these go on.
I think that they were so cool and so well thought and put together that it didn't bother me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think I zoned out. I don't know. Maybe I did. Sometimes I zone out, but that's just life.
All right. So that's it for me.
That's it for me.
This movie was awesome. See it in the best sound theater that you can find. There was one point where I thought my phone was vibrating, but it was just John Wick firing a shotgun. I was like, oh, is my phone like, who's calling me? But no, it was just John Wick just laying waste to a bunch of soldiers. It was great.
That's funny.
So we saw it in Dolby. Highly recommend the Dolby experience for this movie just because the sound is spectacular in this. They pay great attention to detail, to the realism of the gunshots.
Sure.
You don't get that with a lot of movies sometimes. Firefights and things like that can sound weak. They amplify it in John Wick. It is fantastic. Okay, so that's it for this episode. We're just going to jump into Booksmart. Because we got that next, because we saw that.
Good, because we did. We did see that.